So as of the 3rd of June 2024, a property market update for you. We're going to be talking about inflation, house prices, interest rates, all that good stuff that moves on a regular basis. Welcome back to the channel. This is Property Insight. My name's Mark Ashworth.
I'm Neil Harding.
So let's have a look at the property market. I don't think it's moved massively since our last video, but we'll certainly give you an update in our eyes and in our opinions. What do you want to talk about first, Neil?
Yeah, we'll talk about house prices. Let's kick things off.
Why not?
Everyone loves some chat about house prices. Nationwide, normally pretty good at releasing some monthly data on their house price index. So they have produced some data showing, air quote, modest rebound in house price growth in May of...
Oh, what's the modest amount?
0.4%.
Okay, so it seems that everything else is going up in the world except house prices, is that right?
It's not an awful lot of movement, is it? 0.4%. I mean, it would be about as unremarkable as if it went down by 0.4%, really. It's not a huge swing either way. I read an article in the Times. Makes me sound very clever, that, doesn't it? I read the Times all the time. I don't, but I did read the Times just recently.
Did you find it on a train?
Yeah, yeah, I did actually read it on a train. And it says, so there's an article in there that was called Homes for Sale Hit 8-Year High, which I thought was quite interesting, but they also referred to Pantheon Macroeconomics consultancy, who do a lot of work on house price modelling and forecasting, and they're now predicting a 4% increase in house prices this year, while Capital Economics is forecasting a 3% increase, which maybe will happen, but as you were saying to me earlier, 3%, 4%, it's not earth-shattering news, and also it's probably going to be roughly where we end up on inflation coming into the year. So in real terms, is that a real terms increase? Not really.
I don't know, it just doesn't seem to be many people, many pundits commenting on the fact that we've got these very high levels of inflation, but yet house prices have not been affected. So no one's actually talking about that being a price reduction, because to me it seems that, you know, house prices all the while where they're not going up, they're actually going down.
So that whole real terms point, of course, is an argument around inflation, isn't it? You've got to look at what inflation is actually doing. So let's have a look at that. So ONS data, Office of National Statistics, saying that the core CPI core price inflation is running at 4.4% in April 2024, so annual inflation to April 2024. The core inflation, though, stripping out volatile areas of energy and food, which is another level of inflation that people often look at, then that is 2.3%. People often think is actually a better indication of where inflation is really at if you strip out food and energy prices, which is why we mentioned it. And I think 2.3% was the rate that hit the news just recently, certainly on BBC News and a number of other websites. That's maybe the number that people are remembering. So 2.3%, not that far away from the Bank of England's long-term average target of 2%, which is where they want inflation to be. Bank of England, so they are saying as well on their website that inflation rate is currently 2.3%. And that is helped by falling energy prices and bets on what interest rates are going to do.
I don't know, and I don't know what they think will be a reflection of their actions in the wider market, particularly around property, as obviously we're talking about property on this channel. I think it will improve sentiment and it will help the property market to regain some movement, let's say. If they bring them down, then that may actually bring inflation back up again, if it gives people the thought that their money is costing less to borrow. I'm not sure. I think on the 20th of June, I think it will hold again. Yeah,
I think that's where the consensus is from what I read. And I made a dreadful prediction on the last market update saying that they're going to cut the rates, and they didn't, and I'm now saying they're not going to cut the rates this month either. So I don't think they will either, and I'm simply basing that on just every narrative that I read everywhere says they're going to hold.
I think if they get continual for a couple of months inflation at around about 2%, if it drops to 2, rather than being 2.3, 2.5 sort of area, I think that then there's probably more of a chance of it reducing. Historically, July and August are not particularly great months for the property market anyway. They tend to slow down due to holidays and things like that. It remains to be seen, but that's kind of my view.
What's quite interesting is the impact on mortgage products, because you would think that, you know, maybe with a brighter outlook or with inflation coming down, people would think that therefore, okay, inflation's under control, you know, there's more confidence that the Bank of England can and will reduce interest rates, therefore mortgage products interest rates will come down as well. Actually, I saw the mortgage products for buy-to-let actually increase by a little bit. They seem to go up by about 0.1%, sometimes 0.2% compared with where they were a month or two beforehand, which is a little bit disappointing. And I think part of the reason for that is that actually most economists thought that the inflation for April would be even lower than 2.3%. They were thinking 2.1%. The thing to remember though is that whilst mortgage products might be cheaper in the future, savings rates, of course, will be less attractive as well. So for property investors out there looking to borrow funds from private investors, perhaps people looking to lend their money out at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12%, whatever it may be that works for people, you know, property investors become more attractive, don't they? More attractive options, because if you can get 4 point something or 5 point something % with your money in cash just sat in the bank, relatively risk-free, that's perhaps quite attractive compared with lending out at 8 or 9%. But if you can only start to get 3% something or low 4%, then actually that 8, 9, 10% lending it out to private investors for people that have that model, that's quite compelling.
Yeah, I think it will help to, let's say, increase the movement of money. I think the flow of money, I think that's really what economics is all about, isn't it? It's about making money flow easy between people, which means the more transactions there are in the economy, the better the economy does. It transfers to lots of different people. When people are holding on to it because they're a little bit fearful, that's when it really affects the market. So I don't have any doubt that there is money within the economy, within people's reach, but it's just how they choose to use it and how it chooses to go in and out of their accounts, essentially.
Possibly the biggest bit of news, I think, is actually about the Renters Reform Bill.
Yeah, times.
It's kind of fallen away. Well, it has fallen away. Probably going to be resurrected, I would imagine. But for the moment, it's not going to happen. So it never made it through Parliament in the end. And the general election's part of the reason for that, but it never made its final act into law. And so whoever gets into government on July 4th is going to have to start again. I think we'll see another version of it again, and it will be debated and reread and first, second, third readings and all the rest of it. No doubt we'll go through all of it again. But clearly what that means is it's, you know, I would guesstimate that the whole thing's been kicked down the road another year.
So this involves the abolition of Section 21. It also means the reform of Section 8, and obviously all the noise around the court system and how they were going to manage with increased hearings and increased workloads in the UK courts in order to deal with evictions and whatnot, which is now going to remain, well, I guess we've got Section 21 for another year at least.
Yeah, at least. Yeah. So situation continues as it is. So Section 21 will continue as being a valid grounds for eviction, or rather no ground, no fault evictions as they're called. Great. Well, we hope you found that insightful. Please do comment, like and subscribe to the channel, and we look forward to seeing you next time.